What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome to the 817 podcast. You're probably wondering, what is this little update about? And honestly, I got several, I would say a handful of texts and emails from people that are important to me that I want to continue to keep accountable, keep me and Jimmy accountable about what we say on the podcast and making sure that we're saying true information. And I know sometimes we go off rants and tangents and we just let it ride. And if you are not as in depth as we are, you may think what we're saying is 100% accurate. And I don't want to be telling false information. And after 111 episodes, I'm sure that we have been wrong in a lot of places. And I am thankful for those who text me, email me, and Jimmy and keep us accountable. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that I'm keeping us aware on is that there's two corrections I need to make in the conversation we had about David Cook and the Bass family. Correction number one. Visit Fort Worth is a nonprofit. I knew that. Jimmy knew that. I was talking about how Star Telegram talked about how Sasha Bass owns the Visit Fort Worth. Visit Fort Worth is a tourism nonprofit that used to be a city department, but was spun off in its own entity. There's no Bass family on the board. We don't know the influence that Sundance has on the Visit Fort Worth and the Bass family has on Visit Fort Worth based on how they market and all that. It seems like there is some influence, but we don't know that to its purest. Now, the other thing I need to also correct, it's not really necessarily a correction, but I made it, I talk about there's several Bass family members, and the Fort Worth Zoo is I talk about how David Cook can't really talk about other things because the Bass family owns so much. But, Ramona Bass is really responsible for the Fort Worth Zoo and things like that. And so I just want to make sure that I don't, everything that's Bass isn't also everything Sasha. I want to make sure that I'm clear there as well. So Ramona Bass is the Fort Worth Zoo. And, while I'm on the backs of just giving corrections, I also got a text about what comments we made about Fort Worth City Council. So we talked about how the Pier 1 building, they were building a new council chamber on top of the Pier 1 building, and we were like, why are we spending money on building new parts of the building? I thought the whole point of the building was to save money and have tenants in the building. But I have learned that there are tenants in the building, but once City Council is in the building, tenants will not be there. That was never part of the plan. And also that the city will be able to consolidate departments that didn't fit in the old city hall and actually have them in the new city hall, which frees up some building costs, because at the end of the day, we'll be able to sell buildings or in long-term leases that the city were paying to house those departments. So that's kind of the concept on the city hall story, that even though they're building a new chamber, the thought process was we're still saving money because the old city hall couldn't house everyone. And so now they're able to sell some buildings and, uncommit from long-term leases, which were a cost. So those are all my corrections that we have made. Continue to keep us accountable. I'm a believer on trying to give you guys the best information possible. But I also want you to know that Jimmy and I spend a lot of our time doing other things that are higher priorities for us. I run my own company. I travel a lot for that company and the company that I run. We have other things going on. I mean, Fort Worth 817 podcast, unfortunately, is probably priority number 4, number 5 on my list. I actually think, I wish it could be priority number 1 sometimes, so I could really deliver and really build it out how it can become. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And so Jimmy and I, we have other things going on. We record on Sunday. I want you to know I produce and engineer each show. So once we are done, I then edit the podcast. And so for 110, 111 episodes, this has been a 2-person show who only has so much time in the week. But we do it because we love the city, and we also believe that we have an opportunity to talk about the city in a way because we are not tied or to the city. We don't We don't work for the city. We don't make our money in the city. We just have the freedom and less risk than other people to challenge, to discuss, and be transparent and authentic. I think that's ultimately what people look for these days, is like, just be your full self. And that's why I genuinely love the 817 podcast. It's a place where I could be my full self and navigate my own life while growing in a city that I deeply care about. And so that's that. Thank you for listening. Make sure you go donate to the Fort Worth Report. Make sure you subscribe to the Star Telegram. That's where real journalism is happening on a regular basis. And yes, thank you for everyone who's keeping us accountable and also worried that we're talking about the most powerful people in the city. But yeah, we're going to keep going, and see you in 2 weeks.